Braille class. Today we're going to be reading the next part of Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. Now remember in the last part of the story we met the astronauts who were looking at the elevator thinking, what is that? Who's in there? And are they trying to steal the US Space Hotel? So let's find out what happens next. We're outside the pull of gravity up here, Mr. President. Everything floats. We'd be floating ourselves if we weren't strapped down. Didn't you know that? Of course I knew it, said the President. What else can you tell me about that glass capsule? There's a bed in it, said Shanks. A big double bed, and that's floating too. A bed? Barked the President. Who ever heard of a bed in a spacecraft? You must be loopy, Shanks, declared the President. You're dotty as a donut. Showler here, Mr. President, said Showler, taking the mic from Shanks. It is a great honour to talk to you, Mr. President, sir. Oh, shut up, said the President. Just tell me what you see. It's a bed, all right, Mr. President. I can see it through my telescope. It's got sheets and blankets and a mattress. That's not a bed, you drivelling thickwit, yelled the President. Can't you understand it's a trick? It's a bomb. It's a bomb disguised as a bed. They're going to blow up our magnificent space hotel. Who's they, Mr. President? Sir, said Showler. Don't talk so much and let me think, said the President. There were a few moments of silence. Showler waited tensely. So did Shanks and Shuckworth. So did the managers and assistant managers and desk clerks and waitresses and bellboys and chambermaids and pastry chefs and hall porters. And down in the huge control room at Houston, 100 controllers sat motionless in front of their dials and monitors, waiting to see what orders the President would give next to the astronauts. I've just thought of something, said the President. Don't you have a television camera up there on the front of your spacecraft, Showler? Sure do, Mr. President. Then switch it on, you nit, and let all of us down here get a look at this object. I never thought of that, said Showler. No wonder you're the President. Here goes. He reached out and switched on the TV camera in the nose of the spacecraft, and at that moment, 500 million people all over the world who'd been listening in on their radios rushed to their television sets. On their screens, they saw exactly what Shuckworth and Shanks and Showler were seeing. A weird glass box in splendid orbit around the Earth, and inside the box, seen not too clearly, but seen nonetheless, were 7 grown-ups and 1 small boy on a big double bed, all floating. 3 of the grown-ups were bare-legged and wearing nightshirts, and far off in the distance, beyond the glass box, the TV watchers could see the enormous, glistening silver shape of Space Hotel, USA. But it was a sinister glass box itself that everyone was staring at, and the cargo of sinister creatures inside it. 8 astronauts so tough and strong they didn't even bother to wear spacesuits. Who were these people and where did they come from? And what in the heavens' name was that big evil-looking thing disguised as a double bed? The President had said it was a bomb and he was probably right. But what were they going to do with it? All across America and Canada and Russia and Japan and India and China and Africa and England and France and Germany and everywhere else in the world, a kind of panic began to take hold of the television watchers. Keep well clear of them, Showler, ordered the President over the radio link. Sure will, Mr. President, Showler answered. I sure will. Chapter 3, The Link-Up. Inside the great glass elevator, there was also a good deal of excitement. Charlie and Mr. Wonka and all the others could see clearly the huge silvery shape of Space Hotel USA about a mile ahead of them. And behind them was the smaller, but still pretty enormous, transport capsule. The great glass elevator, not looking at all great now beside those 2 monsters, was in the middle. And of course everybody, even Grandma Josephine, knew very well what was going on. They even knew that the 3 astronauts in charge of the transport capsule were called Shuckworth, Shanks and Showler. The whole world knew about these things. Newspapers and television had been shouting about almost nothing else for the past 6 months. Operation Space Hotel was the event of the century. What a load of luck, cried Mr. Wonka. We've landed ourselves slap in the middle of the biggest space operation of all time. We've landed ourselves in the middle of a nasty mess, said Grandma Josephine. Turn back at once. No, Grandma, said Charlie. We've got to watch it now. We must see the transport capsule linking up with the Space Hotel. Mr. Wonka floated right up close to Charlie. Let's beat them to it, Charlie, he whispered. Let's go there first and go aboard the Space Hotel ourselves. Charlie gaped. Then he gulped. Then he said softly, It's impossible. You've got to have all sorts of special gadgets to link up with another spacecraft, Mr. Wonka. My elevator could link up with a crocodile if it had to, said Mr. Wonka. Just leave it to me, my boy. Grandpa Joe, cried Charlie, did you hear that? We're going to link up with the Space Hotel and go on board. Yippee, shouted Grandpa Joe. What a brilliant thought, sir. What a staggering idea. He grabbed Mr. Wonka's hand and started shaking it like a thermometer. Be quiet, you balmy old bat, said Grandma Josephine. We're in a hot enough stew already. I want to go home. Me too, said Grandma Georgina. What if they come after us, said Mr. Bucket, speaking for the first time. What if they capture us, said Mrs. Bucket. What if they shoot us, said Grandma Georgina. What if my beard were made of green spinach, cried Mr. Wonka. Bankum and tummy rot. You'll never get anywhere if you go about what-ifing like that. Would Columbus have discovered America if he'd said, what if I sink on the way over? What if I meet pirates? What if I never come back? He wouldn't even have started. We want no what-ifers around here, right, Charlie? Off we go then. But wait, this is a very tricky manoeuvre, and I'm going to need help. There are 3 lots of buttons we have to press, all in different parts of the elevator. I shall take those 2 over there, the white and the black. Mr. Wonka made a funny blowing noise with his mouth and glided effortlessly like a huge bird across the elevator to the white and black buttons, and there he hovered. Grandpa Joe, sir, kindly station yourself beside that silver button there. Yes, that's the one. And you, Charlie, go up and stay floated beside that little golden button near the ceiling. I must tell you that each of these buttons fires booster rockets from different places outside the elevator. That's how we change direction. Grandpa Joe's rockets turns us to starboard, to the right. Charlie's turns us to port, to the left. Mine make us go higher or lower or faster or slower. Already? No, wait, cried Charlie, who was floating exactly midway between the floor and the ceiling. How do I get up? I can't get up to the ceiling. He was thrashing his arms and legs violently like a drowning swimmer, but getting nowhere. My dear boy, said Mr. Wonka, you can't swim in this stuff. It isn't water, you know. It's air, and very thin air at that. There's nothing to push against, so you have to use jet propulsion. Watch me. First, you take a deep breath. Then you make a small round hole with your mouth and you blow as hard as you can. If you blow downward, you jet propel yourself up. If you blow to the left, you shoot off to the right, and so on. You manoeuvre yourself like a spacecraft, but using your mouth as a booster rocket. Suddenly, everyone began practicing this business of flying about, and the whole elevator was filled with the blowings and snortings of the passengers. Grandma Georgina, in her red flannel nightgown with 2 skinny bare legs sticking out at the bottom, was trumpeting and spitting like a rhinoceros and was flying from one side of the elevator to the other, shouting, out of my way, and crashing into poor Mr. and Mrs. Bucket with terrible speed. Grandpa George and Grandma Josephine were doing the same. And well, may you wonder what the millions of people down on Earth were thinking as they watched these crazy happenings on their television screens. I hope you enjoyed reading the next part with me, and we're going to read some more the next time. Bye!